So we're going to talk about different things here on this show, and we do so. And I've been doing this now for almost 17 years here. And what the people say they love about the show the most is about the information that they get from listening. We're live on Facebook, so I do want to say hi to everybody out there. Like us and follow us. We'll share the show later on. My first guest is Sandy Greenlee. She is the owner of Angels Cremation and Burial. And I have to tell you, all of you out there, what I told her before she came on today. Yesterday, it just so happened that I was talking to a bunch of ladies, and we were talking about, somebody was talking about getting prepared. We're prepared for, your estate planning and this and that and the other thing and how important it is. And of course, also planning ahead of time for what you're going to do, because when you leave, it's one thing, but your kids and all the other people that are left with what you left with them, they don't like it all the time. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But one of the things that they mentioned was, oh my God, you've got to take care of this. Cremations cost a lot of money. They're like $1,300. And I went, no, they're not. And they were like, how do you know? And I said, well, I have had Angels Cremation and Burial on my show. Sandy's been on my show over a year or two now. It's almost 2 years, I think. And we talk a lot about how a cremation is a cremation is a cremation. And so you really do have a choice as to what you want to pay. But if you don't want to pay a lot of money, you can call Sandy and you can find out exactly. We could actually talk to her here. She's here live right now. Welcome back to my show. And you say that you come on my show, one of the number one reasons is about education.
That's right, Carol. God always provides my living. It doesn't matter what I've never been without a roof over my head. I've never been without food to eat. He takes care of me. But I do it because I need to educate people, because it breaks my heart. I had a lady in last week, and she chose a mortuary. She couldn't get a hold of her friend that was going to give her the name of the mortuary to use, which was us. And so she chose a mortuary that was nearby, and she paid $500 for a removal fee. That was just picking up her loved one, taking them to their mortuary, keeping them overnight. The next day we went and picked them up, and she'd paid them $500 for the removal fee. She said she saved over $700 by coming to me, and she paid my $635 for a cremation. And so, if you have that much money and you want to spend it, great. There's a lot of things that we don't do that other mortuaries do. But we do the necessities. We do the things that have to be done. We do the bottom line, nuts and bolts. Because if you want something more, we're happy to serve it. But not everybody has money, but everybody's got a loved one, and you don't get a choice when you take care of them. When they die, you have to take care of them. You can choose when you buy a house, you can choose when you buy a car, but you do not get to choose when you take care of a loved one. And sometimes people have money, and sometimes they don't.
And like we have said many times, and we're going to say it again, a cremation is a cremation. It's a cremation because it doesn't really matter. They're going to do that the same way, correctly?
That's correct.
So, you don't have to, and just tell them again how much yours was.
It's $635 if they're under 200 pounds and not more than approximately 25 miles away from the mortuary. And that includes everything legally that you have to have. There's not anything that's left out that is a necessity. You can choose to add things to it. You can choose to add death certificates, urns, necklaces, jewelry, services, but just a plain old everyday direct cremation means we pick them up, we do the paperwork, we do the permits, we do the cremation, you come in and pick them up. It's $635.
So you can call them direct. Their phone number is 480-962 6435. That's 480-96 Angels. But you want to also go up on their website, because another thing is that I know you have a lot of information there. I've been on it many times before, and it's very simple to use. And what I love about Sandy is you are so transparent, right? You're transparent, and you're all about, a lot of people, when they come to you, that you could tell they don't even have the money, and they'll try, they want to do a lot of things. We've talked stories many times, but you're very straightforward with them, and I love that about you. Again, their phone number is 480-962-6435. The website is angelscremationandburial.com. You want to tell people how transparent you are?
Well, I don't know how transparent I am, but I will tell people the truth. I had a couple of gentlemen in this morning, and they said, well, we need an urn that's this size by this size by this size. And I said, well, that is very limited. where are you burying? And they said, at the VA cemetery. And I said, they don't have any requirements. You can use a temporary container. What? We don't have to buy an urn? No, you don't have to buy an urn. And so the urn is only by requirements of the cemetery. It is not requirements of the state law. And so, you know, our cremains come back in a white cardboard box with a plastic bag liner. Now, if that hurts your heart, buy an urn. If it doesn't hurt your heart, it works great. Especially for people that are scattering or burying where you're not ever going to see them again. I mean, these people were burying at the VA cemetery, and they're in a niche, and so it's never going to be seen. And they have very few people that are going to be there when they put the niche in. So why spend money when they didn't want to?
Right.
And so, you know, the thing of it is you need to be educated. And one of the most important things to be educated about is who is the legal next of kin. I don't get to make those rules, and neither do you. The state law makes those rules. If you are married, it is your spouse. If you are not married, it can be the power of attorney that has to literally state you want to be cremated, or it has to say final disposition. If it's not to say those two things and it is not signed and notarized, it will not work. And so then you're putting your loved one, if there's not any other family members, you have to go to we have to put an obituary in for 15 days. If there's other family members, then the other family members take over. But if you have 3 children and 2 of them are not anywhere to be found, then you're going to be in the cooler for 15 days because we have to have the majority of the signatures in order to cremate. That's a safety factor. Besides, it is a law. I mean, the law is kind of funky. It says, well, anybody can do it, but you have to know that everybody else is not against it. Well, how are you going to know that everybody else is not against it if you don't have their signature to know that they're not against it?
Mm-hmm. And not just a signature. We've also said this many times. It has to be notarized.
Right. And so, you know, it goes, the first is spouse, and then POA, then it goes to children, then it goes to parents, then it goes to siblings, then it goes to, I can't remember if it's grandchildren or grandparents, but it's one of the other of those two. And so when you have to talk about the majority, you're talking about a lot of people in some situations. So, my dear loved ones, if you want to be cremated, go on the Attorney General's website, download their power of attorney. It has a little box, you just X and initial. It works great, and then have it signed and notarized. If you don't have a notary, come to my office. I'll do it for free.
Their phone number is 480-962-6435. The website is angelscremationandburial.com. I really want people to understand something. Well, obviously, you know that we live in a world that everything is a lot of money, right? Everything is extraordinarily high. Where you can save money, if you're going to do this, not everybody does, and it's not right for everyone, but if this is certainly one way that I think a lot of people are gravitating to this more than ever. Would you agree?
Yes. 75 to 80% of Arizona does cremation. In the East Coast, there's more burials, but not in the West. They're getting more and more cremations.
And but the main thing is you want to make sure that it's all done correctly. So maybe you've already done some planning, dust it off and make sure that it's done correctly. And Sandy says that if you don't have a notary, she'll do it for you for free. Certainly, you could talk to her and she can help you with making the decisions. We do want you to do that. That is what you're here for, is to kind of educate people. But getting ready, planning ahead, and we're going to talk more about that when we get back, because you always say this, God picks his flowers when he wants to. So we're going to go to a break. When we come back, you can listen in, tune in more, and it's very interesting. It's angelscremationandburial.com. So we're going to keep on going. And am I okay with what I'm doing here? Great, great,
Carol,
great.
I do not have the time or the patience to figure out what you want me to
You
tell
never have
people.
to.
The only thing is there any way people could call in and ask questions and we could answer them?
I can do that. Do you want to do that right now?
No, I don't care. I just think I didn't know people
The
could
answer is
call in
I
and ask
can.
questions, because I think, maybe we're not answering the questions they have, and I don't know if people would even call in to ask
Nobody
questions.
knows. You don't know until you try, and it doesn't really matter, because sometimes when you get a call sparks another call. You never know. Yeah, and I can do that. If you want me to, I wouldn't judge it on an airtime 15, but we can certainly try
I don't
it.
care. You can do it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I just thought, maybe we should ask people certain questions, or
Yeah,
can
yeah,
they ask
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Because sometimes, I mean, people ask questions that I think I would never have asked that, but yet they're curious. And right now, I can't think of any of them.
Doesn't
that
matter,
they've asked.
doesn't matter, we can ask it, well, we'll do it, we're gonna do something we never did, so we'll do
Oh,
it now.
Okay,
We'll
well,
try it. If we don't
okay.
get a call, don't worry about it, 'cause it's might be that it's just timing wise,
I-
but don't worry about that part of it.
I mean, and you said it's better if there's more time, and we've.
It
you know,
doesn't matter, we could try it, it
Okay.
doesn't matter.
Okay, whatever. I'm easy to go along with.
Yeah, I know that.
I just want to educate people.
Mhm. And I think that's the main key is, number one, getting ready for all of this, talking about it with your families, obviously, having someone like you talking and telling them. I think stories are really big too, that maybe
Mhm.
something that we want to do while I even open it up to the audience of what happens when somebody doesn't do.
They get to hang out in my cooler for 15
So they're
days.
still in their cooler, that's about the, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, people just need to pull their head out of the sand.
I think what they need, yeah, they do, because what happens, for some reason, they just don't wanna talk about it.
gonna
I don't
happen
know what the
tomorrow.
reason is. Some families are very open about it.
But most of them are not, because they don't want to die, and they think if they talk about it, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm, ooh, okay.
That's what I really think.
Yeah, well, we'll
If
talk
we
about
don't
that.
talk about it, it won't happen. I mean,
Makes
I
sense.
have people that are on hospice, and they won't talk about it. It's not gonna happen to me. It's gonna happen to
Mm.
somebody else, not to me today. My own mother was that way. I forced her. She didn't have any choice.
But she didn't know what she was dealing with, Sandy.
Oh, she knew. Trust me. I was a kid that left
I
home at
like that.
16.
I
She
like
knew.
that.
She knew I was obnoxious and ornery.
I don't call it that. I don't say that at all.
Oh, honey, you didn't
Mother
know me when I
and
was
daughter,
16.
different dynamic.
When I was 16, trust me.
So welcome back, everyone. We've been talking during the break to Facebook land, and I do that a lot out here when we do that, the show. And we've decided what we're going to do is, number one, Sandy was saying to me, you know, maybe other people have questions that they want to ask. So for the first time, we are going to open up the lines of the audience for people to be able to call in and ask Sandy a question about maybe, you know, get prepared, preparing. What's the number one question that you get asked, Sandy?
Oh, the number one question I get
Probably there's
asked
too many to ask.
Do I get cremated alone? And everybody gets cremated alone. It's the law.
Okay.
And besides, that's retarded.
Number one question she says is, do I get cremated alone? And she said it's the law that, and so that's the number one. But we're going to open up our lines to the audience here. Maybe you have a question about something. Our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. And next time you come on, we'll start it earlier. But this was just something as a thought that you all out there might have a question. We also talked a little bit about how people don't like to talk about this, and you said that the number one really reason why people don't like to talk about death is because you said go ahead.
If you think about it, then it's going to happen, and
Yeah.
and it's going to happen regardless. God is going to take you home some point. I'm sorry, it's just going to happen. And if you're prepared, the people you're leaving behind are much, much, much easier to deal with. I can tell you, when my dad died, and I have brothers that we get along really well, and we don't argue about what we're going to do with the deceased. We argue about a lot of other things, but we don't argue about that. Everything's pretty black and white. But when my mom died, I had forced her to talk about it. And it was so nice because everybody knew what all the rules were. There was nothing that was left unsaid, or there wasn't a leaf that was unturned. The only thing that was different was my mom died in Arizona, and she wanted to die in Wyoming, which is where she is from, and it didn't work out that way. But every single solitary thing was planned in advance. And everybody knew it, so there was no questions. And for those of us that had to plan it and take care of it, it was so easy because it was like we already knew what everything was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, my mom didn't want to have a service, and we said, Mom, why do you go to funerals if you don't want to have a service? Well, the family needs support, and I remember with me and my little brother said, oh, so all your friends' kids are more important to support than your own kids. And she went, oh, I never thought about it that way. And so my mom said agreed to having a service as long as nobody could see her in the casket dead. And so, and my mom was going to be cremated. My daughter just had a conniption fit. She used to tease her about, oh, you want to see my grandmother? She's on my ring finger.
Oh, God.
And it would make my mom just furious. So my mom decided to be buried instead of cremated. But you know, the thing of it is that we all knew, and it was so much easier, especially considering she died in Arizona instead of in Wyoming.
Well, like you said, people that, when you don't make things easier for people, you know, that's left behind, you said you hang out in the cooler for 15 days.
Sometimes that's the truth. If we don't have the legal next of kin, we have to place an obituary for 15 days before we can bury or cremate. I mean, not before we can bury, but before we can cremate. And people can't afford to bury, and so they hang out in my cooler.
We've got our lines open here for people to call in, and if you want to tell us something that happened to you, or if you want to, you know, obviously have a question for Sandy, our number here is 602-277-5369. Check her out. It's angelscremationandburial.com. I know that there are a lot of things that have to be in place that you need to get. Right? There's some things that I know of her. I'm just saying, I remember us talking about like you have to have X amount of death certificate. I was almost said birth, but death certificates.
Yes. Well, and we have a list of things that you need a death certificate for. There are fewer people that want death certificates nowadays than there were 10 years ago or even 20 years ago, because of the identity theft. A lot of people will give them back to you. A lot of people will make a copy of the top half and the bottom, the top third and the bottom third, draw a line in the middle, so that nobody can sell them, because we did have some people that were selling death certificates, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh.
And so now people are really hesitant about taking death certificates. But it's nice to know how many, because at $20 a piece in Arizona, I don't know about you, but I don't want that expensive paper in my drawer. I would rather have the $20 bill in my drawer that I can go buy steak
See why you love her?
or peanut butter. I mean, I don't know. Buy
whatever, doesn't matter.
graham crackers. But you know, if you want a $20 death certificate, you can order as many as you want. The county will be happy to print them off, $20 each. And people, I mean,
are there things that people, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but are there things that people don't realize that they have to do that comes up like oh my God, I had no idea?
Oh yeah, a lot of people are that way. They don't realize that they have to notify their creditors. You know, they're just going to let them be turned over to the credit bureau. Well, that's nice, but you know what? I was raised to treat others the way you want to be treated. And so I just, whenever bills come to my family when they've passed away, I make a copy of the death certificate the way I teach people to do it, by crossing out certain information. So there's enough information on the death certificate to know that that is really the person that died. Put it in an envelope and mail it to him and say, sorry, Charlie, I'm not responsible for this bill. And to me, it's just, you know, it's a courtesy. Treat others the way you want to be treated.
And that includes the ones that are left behind, right?
That's right.
That really does, and this is what this is about. And there's some questions that I want to ask you, like for instance, I have some here that we've talked about before, which is, if you have a cremation, can you still have a funeral?
Yes, you can. In fact, they have what's called rental caskets, and so you can be embalmed and dressed and casketed, and you go to the church, or you do it at the mortuary, whatever you want to do. And then after the viewing, or after the mass, or after the service, we take the casket back to the mortuary. We take the insides out. They're made specifically for that. And now we have just an empty shell, but we have you in a box, and we send you to the crematory. More people are doing that because they want the closure of a funeral.
I love that idea. As a matter of fact, that warmed my heart just to know that. And the board operator's shaking his head, saying, "Yeah, go ahead."
Well, you know, in that way, people don't even know you're not being buried. You're just not going to the cemetery. For those people that want to keep that a secret, because sometimes, to even telling family members that you're being cremated, that is very detrimental. And so, you know, you can just go back to the cemetery and say, we're going to bury it another day, and it's a private family situation, or the only ones that are going to be there is a mortuary. Whatever you want to tell them, I don't care. I'm not going to lie to people, but you can if you want.
What would you say makes your company, so different than anywhere else?
We're not about money. We're about love and caring and support.
Absolutely.
And we really we care about our families for a whole year. We send them cards, we send them notes, we let them know that we love them, that we care about them. And I can't even tell you how many people call and say thank you, or they send a thank you note back, which is not our intention of them sitting making work for them. We have some people that call and say, please don't send anything else, it's just a reminder of the death. Or how did you know that my loved one was a loved one? Because they weren't, they were a pain in the neck. But you know, we do it, and I would venture to say we do between 14 and 1,500 cases a year. There's probably maybe 10 people that don't appreciate our cards.
But I'm sure that they do, because you know what, I know I would. I know for sure I would.
Well, but if they don't want us to send them, we take their name off the list.
Mm-hmm.
If they want us to send them, we send them to them. You know, and if their religious preference is not Christian, we apologize for sending them a Christian letter at Christmas time. I've had people that have come in and asked for the letter, you know, on this certain paper that I buy. Can I buy the paper so that I can print the letter? And we do that for people. You know, my philosophy is, it always has been, my parents raised me this way: treat others the way you want to be treated. If you have something that is good to you, do the same thing to others. And literally how I got this letter was, it was given to me when my second son died. The idea came to me of sending cards out every 3 months, because when my son was in the hospital and almost died, it died, the chaplain sent me a letter, and I don't know how often he sent it. He's 2 or 3 during the year. But it was such a touch to me that somebody else cared about me besides my family, and they cared that I had lost my 9-year-old son.
And I have to tell you, that is the way you exude yourself. You care about other people, and in your industry, you have to. You would think that you would just have to, that would just come natural, but it doesn't always. And unfortunately, a lot of times you're in a very vulnerable position, and a lot of people unfortunately take advantage of people in that position, and you don't have to. And the main thing is that Sandy loves to talk to people, and she would love to, if you have, I don't know if we have time for another call, but we'll just say it's 602-277-5369. But Sandy has been in the Valley here for at least 25 years, maybe more, I can't even know, but helping families out there know that you don't have to pay a lot of money. You also, there's things that she will help you step by step. She's going to hold your hand to make sure that you are getting not only what you deserve, but what you can afford, right? And if you want to, and you want to spend money, she's fine. If you decide that that's something you want to do, you can do that too.
That's right. You know, it should be about you, not about the money. And if you want to go to the expensive mortuaries, please go. If you want to save money, or you want to just check us out, please come check us out. We are not meant to serve everybody. We're meant to serve those that God sends to us. And those that we're not supposed to be sending, He takes away.
And I'm going to tell you, like she says all the time, God picks His flowers when He wants to pick His flowers. Also, remember, the most important thing, that your papers are notarized, and a cremation is a cremation. Give them a call. Their phone number is 480-962-6435, which is 96 Angel. It's Angels, cremationandburial.com.
That guy's driving me